Good evening and welcome to Geisman Gymnasium here on the campus of Concordia University, Chicago for the 2023 Women's Volleyball home opener of your Concordia University Chicago Cougars and the visiting Lake Forest Foresters as they come here to take on the Cougars. Again, first home matchup of the season for CUC. Peter Borkowski here on the Cougar Sports Network, joined by Van Gato. And Van, this is an exciting time for the Cougars. They're under first-year head coach Andrew Palmer, and they're coming off the Illinois College Tournament. They went 2-2 at that tournament, able to pick up wins against Earlham as well as Anderson. That was the first game of the tournament. They picked up a win against Blackburn and Anderson. They lost games to the host Illinois College and Earlham. But, Van, there were a couple standout players from that tournament. First off, let's talk about one of the stars from this team last year, Grace Haywood, first team All-NAC, and she had herself a pretty good tournament as well.
Yeah, she received All-Tournament over the weekend. She led the team. She has 58 kills right now, and she's hitting at a 3.63, and she's coming in hot. Last year, she broke one of the conference and NAC records with 34 kills in one game. So it's exciting to see her come out hot, swing hard, use the block. She's going to come out strong today.
And a big reason for her success is the main player who's setting her up for all those kills. It's Isabel Vernango. She made all-tourney at that Illinois College Tournament. So did Grace Haywood, should mention that. But the story with Vernango is over the weekend, broke the 2,000 career assist mark, is now sitting at fourth all-time in CUC history, 4 career assists. And, Van, when you have someone like Vernango in the middle of the court setting up your attackers, setting up your hitters, it's really easy to get a lot of kills that way.
Exactly. Each game she had around like 30 assists. She came in with good hands. They were flowing like butter. She popped out each game. During the tournament also, many of the players also had high kills, around 16. Kate Foley, Lily Hunt also had above the 10 mark. They came out hot, which allowed for Isabella to get those numbers, and she can continue breaking records for the team.
Well, Vernango was All-NAC honorable mention last year. She's been a strong part of this Cougar team all previous 3 years she's been here, now in her senior season. But, Van, let's turn it over to the team on the other side of the court tonight, the Lake Forest College Foresters. They're coming in today 3-0, and, Van, this is just a very strong program overall. They're tied for second in the preseason poll for the Midwestern Conference, so they're right there at the top. Their head coach in her 5th year, Katie Rufer, won Coach of the Year last season. Again, they're sitting 3-0 right now, coming off a win against Wisconsin Lutheran.
Looks like they're a younger team, too. They have a mix of freshmen and sophomores, but their team also has some older players that are vital to their team, like their opposites and their outside, too.
Well, one of those opposites is Mary Geegan. She was first team Midwestern Conference last season. In their last game against WLC, Geegan had 6 kills. That was second on the team for that game. She also had 3 blocks, so a player who can do it on the offensive side of the court as well as the defensive side of the court. She's going to be a fun one to watch. But, Van, we got about a minute left until we send it down to the court for national anthem and starting lineup. So really quick, what's it going to take for the Cougars here to get a win opening night here at Geisman Gymnasium, the home opener? What do they need to do to come away with that W?
It looks like they just need to continue hitting strong. This year they are a more defensive side team. They have a lot of younger players on the team. They have Grace Haywood, as always, coming out hot. She just needs to continue swinging, make sure she tools the block, and Izzy just continue making those assists. Lake Forest has a lot of players that can put up that high hitting percentage with their seniors, too, with Gregan, and also I think it's Franz, the other senior outside hitter. Both of them are putting up strong stats, so we just need to continue out hot today.
Well, the two teams are in their final huddles on the court in their respective benches. Cougars attacking right to left, and the Foresters will be left to right. But the buzzer is about to go off here, so we're going to send it down courtside now. Again, we'll have the national anthem and the starting lineup. Then Van and I will be back with you up in the booth for tonight's action between the Forester and the Cougars. Well, our starting lineups have been set, so let's go through it one more time for all of those of you watching at home. First, for the visiting Lake Forest Foresters, the libero is number 1, Julia Tursky, and then the starters, number 6, Holland Smits, number 8, Mary Geegan, number 9, Lily Robinson, number 11, Grace Franz, number 17, Mia Atkins, and number 18, Riley Stapley. Now let's go over the starters for your Concordia University Chicago Cougars. The libero for tonight is number 8, Shira Marin. And the starters are number 1, Acacia Brown, number 2, Eve Dickin, number 5, Kate Foley, number 7, Isabel Vernango, number 12, Grace Haywood, and middle blocker number 14, Michaela Levoy. So teams take their places out on the courts. Again, this is the first home appearance for the Cougars this season, which means it's also the first home appearance for Coach Andrew Palmer in his first year as a Cougar head coach. And Van, you're a member of the men's volleyball team. You guys had a first-year head coach last season, so can you maybe give us a little insight to what's going on about through these players' heads, knowing that they're performing for their new head coach in his first year?
It's a different dynamic. The Cougars are looking to improve on what they had last season with their previous coach and to build further with a new program. Palmer comes from a men's volleyball background, so it's new and fresh for these girls to figure out how they will play under a more attack-centered side compared to a more defensive style coaching, which is usually on the women's side.
So serving first will be the visitors. Lake Forest doing the honors and getting us started here tonight is number 9, the setter, Lily Robinson, a 5'5" sophomore out of Paradise Valley, Arizona. As she gets set now, Cougars out there with Levoy, Dickin, Foley, Marin, Haywood, and Vernango, as Robinson gives the ball a good couple bounces, and we are officially underway here. The 2023 home opener for the CUC women's volleyball team. And immediately Eve Dickin goes on the offensive, but is curbed, and that one's going to go out of play. First point goes to the team in maroon. Cougars wearing their home maroon jerseys with gold lettering, while the libero Marin in the white jersey with maroon lettering. Meanwhile, Lake Forest wearing their black jerseys with red sleeves, and then the libero Tursky wearing the red jersey with black lettering, as the Cougars' first serve of the night goes into the net. So we're knotted up here early, 1-1. Grace Franz will serve now. Her serve is over, played by Marin. Vernango gives it a little tip, but sending it right back is the Foresters' Mia Atkins. And that's going to give Lake Forest their first lead of the night here early, 2-1. So getting a second straight serve will be Franz. Her serve is over. Marin pops it up, and now Foley able to send it to Haywood. Her attack is stopped, so Foresters on the offensive now. Haywood able to stop their attack as here goes Foley. A little soft one and a diving stop there, but not enough for the Foresters. That's going to tie us up at 2 now.
Foley pulled out with a cheeky play, as we call it in a beach game. Rolled it over the net, perfect, right to the Foresters where they weren't at.
Not too strong in attack, maybe caught the defense off guard a little bit, as Marin's first serve of the night is a good one. Foresters have to respond. One-handed play by Haywood, but Marin not able to recover off of it. Lake Foresters are going to retake the lead here. Going back to serve will be the libero sophomore Julia Tursky out of Prairie Grove, Illinois. As her serve is played by Haywood. Now Vernango going to set up Eve Dickin, and right there to stop it's Tursky. Ball still alive. Now Marin responds defensively for the Cougars. Foley's attack touches the ground. Cougars tie us up again.
Foley is just playing with the front row right now, using the tool off the block to get that point.
We saw a little bit of Foley last year, Van, as she was a freshman. She's now a sophomore under a new head coach, and it seems like her role is going to be greatly expanded this year. As Eve Dickens serve It's coming back towards the Cougars, and Isabel Vernango can't get on top of it, and that's going to be a point for the Foresters. Very back and forth affair here, Van, as we see our first couple substitutions of the game. Neither team really seeming to step ahead, step in front of the other one, but it's too much distance. So going back to serve now will be Julie Barrentos, one of the substitutions who came in. Her serve is a soft one, handled easily by Foley as Vernango now. She's going to send it to Brown. Diving dig there by Marin, able to keep it up for the Cougars as the whistle blows. It's going to be a violation on Lake Forest. Two-touch call, and so the Cougars able to get that one back.
Looks like the Foresters are using a 6-2, using two setters and two right sides to come out strong.
Foley now in her sophomore year, her serve is going to be sent back towards the Cougars. This one, kind of an awkward angle there. Cougars aren't able to make a play on it, as we'll get our first substitution of the night for CUC. Brooke Christensen going to check in. Kate Foley going to check out.
Over the weekend, we saw her playing front row, but now she's running back as a DS as last year.
So first serve for Mary Geegan. First team at Midwestern Conference last year, as the Cougars trying to send this one over. They finally do, and that's a block up front. Ball still in play. Haywood sends it back. Cougars playing some tough defense up front. Another block, but this one's going to go out off the Cougars' hands. So it'll be point Lake Forest. They take the first multi-point lead of the night here, 6-4. As it'll be Geegan to serve once again. And Haywood on the attack. There's classic Grace Haywood for you. A powerful strike, places it in perfect placement. Man, that's what we've come to expect out of number 12 in maroon.
She just finds those corners each time she's on the court, using her power to her advantage.
Haywood's been at CUC. This is her third year now. Didn't get a ton of opportunity her first season, and last year in year two, it just skyrocketed to stardom again. Set multiple records for CUC, even a few in the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference, enough to earn her first team all-conference honors. And now she's back for a fifth year. It is her fifth year. This is her third year for the Cougars, to be more specific, as this serve is played by the Cougars. A floater there from Haywood. Forrester is able to keep it alive. Vernango now on the defensive. As Haywood sets up for attack. Foresters have to respond. It's sent back. Eve Dickin pops it up. Now Isabel Vernango is just going to send one over. Foresters able to handle it. Marin, this one goes behind her, but Brooke Christensen is right there. Haywood sends this one. Does it stay in the line? It does. Cougars points. They pull back within one now. 7-6 the score. Feels like only a matter of time, Van, before Haywood really finds a rhythm. She was kind of quiet at the start of this game, but over the last couple points, we're seeing her look more and more like the Grace Haywood we saw last season and like the one we saw at the Illinois College Tournament, which earned her all-tourney player. And that one touched some Cougar fingertips, but it dies down before Brooke Christensen can get under it. So that'll be a point for Lake Forest, up by 2 once again, 8-6. Serving now is Lily Robinson. Her serve is what started us off tonight, as here goes Haywood, blocked up front. Cougars able to respond. Now Eve Dickens' attack goes out. Did not touch Forrester's hands, say the officials. So Foresters get another point, now up by 3.
Foresters are really using their substitutions well, changing the pace, changing the sets, allows for the defense on the Cougar side to get a little confused from the different tempos.
Haywood responds with a kill there, and Van, on the Cougar side, we haven't seen a ton of substitutions. Kate Foley, who started the game, checked out for Brooke Christensen. They now flop as Kate Foley's back in the game, but other than this is still the starting lineup we saw to start the game.
Palmer seems to not really use subs that much, but on the other side for the Foresters, they using a lot to run that 6-2.
Maybe we'll see some more strategy as the game goes along from the Cougars' first-year head coach, but for now he's sticking with his starters as Foley's little pop is too hard, goes out the back of the inbounds lines.
Seems to follow the men's strategy, making sure he could run all options on the court, allowing Eve to swing from back row and Brooke, who played front row over the weekend at the Illinois tournament, which allows for the whole team to have options on the court.
Yeah, we haven't seen a ton of substitutions, but plenty of movement on the court as this is going to be our first service ace of the night. Cougars misjudged that one. And that ends up in a 4-point Forester lead now as getting set to serve once more is Grace Franz, senior outside hitter from Aurora, Illinois. All too familiar for Cougar fans. Aurora University, a member of the Northern Athletics Collegiate Conference. As Marin Libero back to serve. Lake Forest bats it around. Now blocked up front by Brown. Lake Forest responds, and then an errant attack there from Geegan. It results in the Cougar point. We're starting to see the defenses pick it up too a little, Van. Earlier in the game, didn't see a ton of defense, a lot of, early volley points, but now the blockers are getting more involved and these two liberos and everyone defensively are getting more and more digs.
Shy, a newcomer from the team. She's a transfer from North Park, coming in hot, getting these digs and making sure she runs the flow of the defense on the other side.
Shia Marin with some big shoes to fill, replacing longtime Cougars libero Julia Beers, who graduated at the end of last season. As first time we've seen a new libero in the Cougars uniform in quite some time, and that results in a Foresters point, They're now up 13-9. So serve from Tursky as Kate Foley goes for the attack. Diving play there from Robinson. Ball still batted around by Lake Forest as Robinson's just got to send it over. Vernango now sets up Foley. Her attack stopped in the back row by Franz. And that's a block up front. Kezia Brown, Kate Foley in the vicinity as well, and the Cougars turn it into a point.
Another first-year Cougar. She's a transfer. She's a middle blocker. She's big. She's ready to pop out on the court.
This one, a hard attack there from Lily Robinson. Listed as a setter, she decides to go for the kill on that one and is rewarded with one. She puts her team up now 14-10. Back to serve is Julia Barrientos. Primarily subbing in for serving duties, as this one is going to be a service error. Hits the net. Cougars back within 3 now. 14-11 your score. Going back to serve will be the sophomore Kate Foley. Her serve hits the top of the net. Forster's able to play it off the bounce. Blocked up front by Brown. She's doing some good work at the front row. She brings her team within a pair of points. And she's got a couple of blocks now within the last few volleys. Serve here from Foley, and unable to get a good angle on it is Tursky. So that'll be another point for the Cougars. They're making a run here. They're within 1. Foley now. Her serve is a good one as Lake Forest goes on the attack. That's tipped up front. Marin able to get under it. Now here goes Haywood. That's tipped all the way to the back row with Franz. That one touches some fingertips as well. Blockers all getting a piece of these, helping their back row defense as Lake Forest has to send it over. Eve Dickens sets up for Nango, who's going to set up Brown. Good dig there from Bierantos. Tursky Her freebie played by Foley. Vernango goes for the dunk, but Lake Forest on their toes. As Vernango now sets up Haywood, and this one's going to go all off the hands of Tursky. Huge point for the Cougars, Van. Not only do they tie up the game, but that's a huge morale boost when you're able to win a long volley like that.
Just boosting their confidence on the court right now, making them all the Cougars. Sure enough.
Barrientos now sends it the other way. Kate Foley, good dig. Had to go all the way down for it, but the whistle blows. I'm going to say double touch on CUC as Andrew Palmer had some words with the far side official. Cougars get a sub here. Brooke Christensen in, Kate Foley out. Van, that's really the only substitution we've seen for the Cougars is that Foley to Christensen switch.
Palmer seems not to like to change the pace of the game, making sure the same lineup sticks and working with that throughout the set.
A lot of new faces on this CUC team, not only in terms of first-year players, but in terms of younger players getting expanded roles. Foley, Christensen, Eve Dickin has not had a ton of time in her first few years as a Cougar, getting a start here in her junior year. As this one off the net and off the hands of Barrientos, Cougars tie it right back up at 15. It's the first to 10 now. Levoy checks back in for the Cougars as Marin heads out. Barrientos sends it to Franz, who diving effort there by Christensen just can't get under it enough. And retaking the lead will be the Lake Forest Foresters. Huge crowd tonight here in Geisman already. It's Jersey night, so a lot of fans dressed up in their favorite sports team apparel. It's also a hot one here in Geisman. Temperature in the low 90s, upper 80s outside, but man, as someone who's played in this gym plenty, I know I don't have to tell you, it just kind of amplifies the heat that's already outside.
And with the crowd too, all the voices, just generates more heat, which causes a lot of sweat, which is a problem on defense. Causes the players to slide more on both sides. And
you'll hear a lot of coaches at CUC talk about just how huge the home court advantage is here, which is true for any college, but it seems especially true for Geisman. But meanwhile, Andrew Palmer still looking for that home court advantage. His team trailing 18-15 against the Lake Forest right now. It's going to force him to use his first time out of the match. So we're going to take a break here in the booth as well. When we'll be back in a second, we'll have the continuation of Cougars versus Foresters.
We appreciate you tuning into today's game. To stay up to date on all things CUC women's volleyball, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CUC_volleyball. We'll see you on campus soon.
Back here in Geisman, the timeout about to run out as the Cougars take the court again. Forrester is breaking their huddle now. They're on top of CUC 18-15. Again, the 2023 home opener here at Geisman Gymnasium. First home game for Andrew Palmer as head coach of the Cougars.
See if the coaches get a coach's point and see if the Foresters serve it into the net, which would be unfortunate for their side.
Cougars might be one of those timeouts, man, just to kind of slow momentum down. Foresters on a 3-0 run. They're going to make that a 4-0 run now after that service ace. We've seen that a few times, Van, where the Cougars just kind of misjudge where the serve is going. That one able to ping the corner of the court. As now serving is Riley Stapley. Haywood goes down to pop it up. Now she goes on the offensive. It hits the net and some blockers, so the Cougars able to keep it going. Eve Dickin, that touches some fingers, but Forrester's able to slow it down enough. Christensen to Vernango. She's going to send it over to Haywood. Hits it into the blocker's hands and down. Point Cougars. They're able to stop the bleeding and pull within 3.
Haywood's just so good at tooling that block, allowing for the ball to fly all around the court.
Haywood with 5 kills on the night. That leads all players. Closest to her is Grace Franz of Lake Forest. She's got 3, and then Kate Foley and Holland Smits on CUC and Lake Forest respectively. They both have 2. Meanwhile, Tursky, that's right into some Cougars' hands. Back towards the Foresters, and this one goes out. The official has to duck out of the way of it. And the Cougars back within a pair now, trailed by as much as 4 in the last few minutes, and now Isabel Vernango looks to cut that lead down even more. Vernango, her serve. It's a low one, and it costs the Lake Forest Foresters. Mary Geegan not able to get under it. Service ace for Vernango, and the Cougars, they're back within 1. Whistle blown, point CUC, so we are tied up here at 19.
One of the difficulties of running a 6-2 is that the setters can't jump over the net for front row. This causes an issue if the passes are too tight. So the Foresters have to deal with making sure they keep their sets closer to the U on the court, making sure that the offense is run smoothly and not interfering with the net.
So we're going to get a break here as the teams call time out. So when we're back in a second, we got a brand new ball game as we're tied 19-19 here in the first set. Quickly approaching that 25-point mark. We'll be back in just a second. Timeout over here in Geisman as we get set now for the continuation of set 1. 19-19 is your score as Isabel Vernango gets set to serve for the Cougars. They're looking to take their first lead in quite some time here. Have been playing from behind for most of this first set. She sends a little floater over of a serve. Vernango now pops it up. Marin. Here comes Haywood, and that one's popped up. Lake Forest able to keep it in, and this freebie is going to be errant as it will be a Cougars point. They take the lead here 20-19. They're just 5 away from claiming set 1.
Haywood seems to use that line shot as her specialty, twisting her whole body and using all her power to hit down that line.
Vernango now sends one into the net, so service error, and we're tied back up at 20.
These last 5 points are the most crucial, and that memento boost might be just enough for the Cougars not to carry that memento throughout the next couple points.
And in collegiate volleyball, it's the first to 3 sets, first to 25 in each set. You got to win by 2 as there's a big block. Christensen able to respond nicely, keeps the play alive. Heads up play there by sophomore number 26. Blocked up front, but it's out of play. And so taking the lead right back will be Lake Forest. Serving now is Robinson. And that's going to be a service ace as Lake Forest takes a 2-point lead now. They're just 3 away from claiming set 1. Cougars, meanwhile, they need 5 still, as it'll be another time out here for Coach Palmer. So we're going to keep it here, in fact, on the broadcast. We got about 1 minute and 8 seconds during the timeout. So, Van, Cougars are down by 2 in the very late stages of set 1. Set 1, the one you really don't want to lose because that sets up the momentum for the rest of the match. But, I mean, what would you maybe change about the Cougars' play here? What would you tweak in order to get them to overcome that 2-point deficit and get to 25 first? What's the key here?
Seems like their communication is a little off in the back row right now. If they could pick up their serve receive, the Cougars can get the ball in play. And the first pass is the most key and vital part of the game. So if they could get that up, they could continue and hopefully fix that lead for them. Well, the Foresters need to keep serving. They're serving effectively. Seems like they are very good at keeping rallies. So if they can continue keeping those rallies and just tire out the Cougars, that's their shot to winning.
Yeah, serving has been a difference maker so far in this first set. Lake Forest, 4 service aces, just 2 errors. Meanwhile, the Cougars, they have just 2 aces to 3 errors. So Foresters definitely taking care of things on the serving line. Hit percentages, though, neither team doing extraordinarily well. Lake Forest hitting at a .061 mark, while the Cougars, they're just below that at .054. So offensive play might need to be cleaned up a little on both sides if either of these squads really want to pull away with the contest.
Unforced errors are the killer of this game.
So Robinson gets this going again here in set 1. Foresters up 22-20. Eve Dickens sends one over. Foresters, they control it now as Robinson sends it back to CUC side. Marin to Haywood, and that's going to be a Foresters possession. And there's a pancake no by Vernango. Looked like she got under it. Officials say it touched the ground, so Foresters 2 away now from claiming set 1. Serving is Robinson once again. Sophomore setter. Her serve is dug, and that one hit right into Christensen's face. A vicious attack. Christensen wore it off the head. She looks okay. That was a fast-moving ball. Luckily, Christensen able to show some grit, stay out there, as it's now do or die for the Cougars. They're 1 point away from losing set 1. Foresters looking to clinch it. And here's some good defense from the Cougars. Eve Dickens sends it over. It's a good send. As now the Foresters, some miscommunication. It's going to cost them. That one hit the pin. There's a toss-up between 2 of their players. No one called it. Then we talked about miscommunication hurting the Cougars. We saw it hurt Lake Forest right there.
Haywood is now in back row. Let's see how Folly puts it up at the front row.
Foley, Levoy, and Dickon up front. Vernango, Marin, and Haywood in the back. As Haywood's serve is played by Lake Forest. Haywood now to Vernango. She's going to set up Levoy. It's blocked up front. It's still alive, but no, they're going to call 4-touch, and that'll do it for set 1. Vernango, Levoy, and Dickon trying their best to keep it alive. They can't. And so that'll do it for set 1. 25-21 is your final here in the first set in Geisman Gymnasium. And so we're going to take a break. The players, they're going to switch sides. And when we come back in a few minutes, the Cougars are going to look to overcome a 1-0 match deficit as they're taking on a tough Forester squad in the 2023 home opener for CUC women's volleyball. set two about to get underway here at Geisman Gymnasium as your CUC Cougars taking on the Lake Forest Foresters. Lake Forest won that first set 25-21. Let's go over some of the stats really quick. In terms of leaders, Grace Haywood leads all players in kills with 6. Meanwhile, the current assist leader is Isabel Vernango. She has 7. Your digs leader for the night so far is going to be a 3-way tie between Grace Franz, Julie Barrientos, and the Cougars, Shira Marin. But Van, again, we saw the Foresters. They took that first set 25-21. I mean, what did you notice from the CUC side at least? What do they do well? What can they build off of from that first set despite the loss?
The Cougars are leading in kills right now, so their offensive side is perfect for the team. However, the last 5 points, there was a mix-up either through communications or just through shanks from the hardest 5 points of the game. So the Cougars might change up their back row players just to make sure that that doesn't happen and mistakes don't happen in the backcourt. However, on the Forester side, they will probably continue the same exact lineup, running that 6-2, running that different styles of offense, just so they can mix up the team and cause the defense to be shaken up a little bit.
Again, Cougars, we'll reiterate again, not big on substitutions this match so far. It's largely been the group of Kate Foley, Keisha Brown, Isabel Vernango, Grace Haywood, Shira Marin, Eve Dickin, and Michaela Levoy. Brooke Christensen has been in and out. Michaela Levoy has come in and out as well.
Palmer seems to like to run the 5 options, so each player on the backcourt can hit, and also on the front court besides Isabella. Compared to the Foresters, who only have 4 hitters at all times, this can cause different routes. However, the Cougars need to vitally use all spots on the court for it to be effective, to not run those DSs in back row for the right back.
So the Cougars, they'll get us started here in set number 2. Isabel Vernango, the first set of the set, the first serve of the set, I mean to say. The Cougars senior setter, one of the most prolific assist dishers in CUC history, as her first serve is played by the Foresters. She gets a pancake there. They're going to say it touched the ground again. Second time we've seen a play like that from Vernango. And so the first point of set number 2 goes Lake Forest's way. Lake Forest on the serve from Franz. As Eve Dickin now, she goes for a kill. She sends it out of bounds. It'll be a point Lake Forest. Dickin still looking for her first kill of the match. Represents the trend with a lot of Cougar players in terms of being at 0 or negative hitting percentage. Only 2 Cougar players who we've seen tonight are the positives in hitting percentage, as that block goes out of bounds off Lake Forest. Cougars get one back here. Two to 1 Lake Forest here in set number 2, as Grace Haywood now for the serve. This one hits the top of the net. Lake Forest, some good defense. Is it going to make it back over? It is, but it's going to be out of bounds. So Cougars, 2 straight points, and we're tied up here in set 2, 2-2.
Seems like the Foresters are very scrappy, using their one arm and multiple attempts through diving to get the ball up at any means possible.
Doesn't work out in that effort, as again that one out of bounds. So Grace Haywood, a strong serve. It's played by Franz. As here's a strong attack. It's blocked by the Cougars. Lands out of bounds, however. Lake Forest point. They retake the lead here, 3-2. Set 1, extremely close from the get-go, and then Lake Forest eventually starting to pull away. Set 2 looks to be almost a repeat of that. 3-2 here as Foley, her little attempt goes out of play. Point goes CUC's way. They're going to say Lake Forest touched it. Missed that one from up there. It must have been a very small tip, as head coach Katie Roofer having words with the ladder official. Unhappy with that call. serve here from Marin. Lake Forest now blocked up front, and it stays in bounds. The Lake Forest hitter decided to see where that one fell. She chose poorly, though, as it falls inside the lines. Cougars, they take the lead for the first time here in set 2. Marin tips the top of the net. Lake Forest able to play it. This one hits the net and some blockers. It's going to result in a point thanks to Riley Stapley. So some subs here for Lake Forest now. Checking out is Holland Smits and Lily Robinson. Meanwhile, coming in is Rebecca DeCalk as well as another frontline player for the Foresters. Will be Mary Geegan. Meanwhile, Cougars on the offensive. This one popped backwards, but Foresters are there. Vernango to Brown, touches the ground, and the Cougars, they're going to get a point out of it. And they're going to improve their lead here.
Seems like Brown has a heavy hand both on the hitting and the tipping side, using that power tip right there.
And Stapley let that one fall to DeCalk, and just some miscommunication there as it results in a point for CUC. You got to think, Van, it's because it's still early in the season. A lot of these communication problems yet to be ironed out. Lake Forest in just game number 4, the Cougars in game number 5. Presumably, all these miscues we're seeing, they should be getting cleaned up as we approach conference play, you would hope.
Yes, and many of the Cougars are different from last year on the starting lineup, so that provides a different sense. Most of these we have 2 starters that were here from last year, so it's a different style of play. Learning to communicate with these teammates, even though you practice with them, in-game is not the same as practice.
Yeah, a lot of new for the Cougars this year. Again, the only returning starters, those 2 Van mentioned, Isabel Vernango and Grace Haywood. So you got 4 new starting players, a new libero, which again, we haven't seen that at CUC in a while. And then of course you got a new head coach with all of his systems, how he runs practices, his relationship with the players, all that good stuff. But it's still a lot for this team to sort through just through 5 games. So meanwhile, the Cougars, they up their lead to 2 as Foley's serve heads to the back row. A strong attack there, and it'll touch ground. Riley Stapley, the 5'11" middle blocker from Cave Creek, Arizona.
She used that solo block for her advantage, making sure that the other side was not pressing to get that ball on the Cougar side.
So we were talking about how this is still time to tune things up for the Cougars, but it will be their last tune-up attempt before they hit conference play. Their next matchup, which is in over a week, September 13th, an oddly long break, but that matchup is against Wisconsin Lutheran College. That is the first NAC game of the year for CUC, so this is their last chance before a week-long break, kind of figure things out before they start playing those games that really matter, as that one's going to be out of play. So we're tied up here, 7 points apiece now.
Palmer could use that time to strengthen the team's communication, strengthen their defense, which seems to be what is causing them the game last set, and their communication.
And Grace Haywood, not much you can do about that one. Lake Forest gets some hands on it, courtesy of Mary Geegan, but she can only do so much when the ball's got that much velocity on it.
They're using a serving specialist, Katie Heidel, right now.
So Katie Heidel checks into the game. First time we've seen number 22 for the Cougars tonight, as her serve is going to be illegal. She stepped over the line. Funny exchange there. Heidel looking to Coach Palmer to ask if she really did it, and he just nodding his head at her. It was somewhat blatant. Heidel, a junior here at CUC, another player who, despite being an upperclassman, hasn't seen extended time at CUC. Only 21 sets played. 21 matches, excuse me, in her career. And now the Cougars back on the offense. They're trailing Lake Forest 9-8 as this one hits the net and some pin. The referees give each other a few looks. Call it the way of CUC as Lake Forest, their players giving the ladder official some looks. They don't entirely agree with it. Either way, it's a point for CUC. And now we're tied up at 9 here in set 2. Isabel Vernango to serve. Vernango. Her serve is good. There's a strong attack. Vernango, a falling play, able to pop it up as Grace Haywood sends a freebie over. Robinson, she sets up Franz. Cougars all get some pause on it. Grace Haywood, a strong attack, out of play though. And it's now a 10-9 lead for Lake Forest. So Franz back to serve. Her serve strong. Didn't even really look like it was going to die down. Is Eve Dickin. She picks up a kill. That'll be number 1 on the night for the junior. Number 1 on 8 total attempts. As Grace Haywood goes back to serve now. Dickin, a junior, St. Louis, Missouri. As this is going to be a service ace now for Haywood. The Foresters not able to get under that one enough. And the Cougars take the lead back here 11-10.
Haywood uses all her space possible with her standing float, making sure it goes as far and hard as possible.
She gets set for another serve now. Another strong one. Franz in the back row. And now here's an attempt from Geegan. Cougars able to play it fully. Blocked up front. Cougars keep it alive for a second before they send it out of bounds. Lake Forest point. And we're going to be knotted up at 11 now. Back to serve is the libero, Julia Tursky. Only a sophomore as her serve is played by the Cougars. Here comes Foley, a floater, and this one going out. Lake Forest, good effort to keep it up, but can't get there in time. Cougars take the lead again, 12-11.
She set that spot right to the campfire in volleyball, which is the center of the court where not a lot of people, due to a perimeter defense, are at, which causes the confusion and those missed shanks.
Marin. The serve was good, and that's going to be a violation on the Cougars. Point Foresters. We're tied up here 12-12. As coming in and serving is Barrientos. Barrientos so far tonight has seen a lot of action serving. The Cougars fire that one right back for the point, retaking the lead. And then in set 1, it was really the middle of the set where we saw Wake Forest pull away from it. And even though the Cougars did come back to tie it, it really felt like Wake Forest was in control to the end of that set. So it seems like a good time for the Cougars to do the same to their opponents.
Seems like they lose steam in the middle of the set and then pick it back up.
Keep the foot on the pedal. They do that here. Another point, now up by 2. 14-12, the score here in Geisman, set 2. As Eve Dickin, her serve. A strong one. Geegan decides to play it. Whistle blown, violation on Lake Forest. 2-touch called. You can't do that, and the Cougars now within 10 of claiming set number 2.
Seems like the refs are on those doubles today. Keeping an eye out for those.
It's been easily the most popular call we've seen so far tonight. As Haywood to Vernango. Here comes Foley. It's blocked up front. It hits the pin, though. Point Lake Forest. So Lake Forest stops the damage, cuts into the lead now. Ends a 3-0 scoring run for CUC, makes it 15-13. Geegan, her serve to Haywood, and that's going to be an errant reception as she just popped that one out of bounds. So the misplay from Haywood brings Lake Forest back within 1 now, 15-14 as Geegan back to serve. Geegan. Haywood now for Vernango. Here comes Brown, a strong attack. Did it stay in? It did not. Andrew Palmer having a word with the officials, upset with that call.
Seems to be confusion on the side.
Palmer gets some clarification from the far side official as Mary Geegan gets set to serve now in a tied ball game, 15-15. We saw this tie last set, I should say. Lake Forest pulled away from it. Would eventually go on to win set 1. This one hits the net, goes out. Last touch Lake Forest, so Cougars retake the point now. And they retake the lead as well. 16-14 the score. To 15, excuse me, as Foley's serve played by the Foresters. This one tipped by Brown. She gets it right back for the kill. Acacia Brown looking right at home in Geisman, and she gives her team a 2-point lead as we are starting to hit that end stage of set number 2.
Brown seems to be finding this open space in the court right now.
Brown, somewhat local product, Addison, Illinois, her hometown, actually the original home of Concordia University Chicago. That's why Addison Hall on campus is named the name it is. Attended Fenwick High School. So not too far from home is the CUC transfer as Haywood sends over the freebie now. CUC up by 1 here. Falling for the play is Christensen. Keeps it going. Haywood, another freebie. Cougars trying to get their offense organized. That's a strong attack. Marin, this one hits the ceiling, bounces around. CUC able to respond. Haywood with the kill. But it's going to go to Lake Forest. They call a 2-touch rule.
I think it was net.
So the ref putting 2 fingers up. Either way, the Cougars commit a violation, and because of it, a crowd-pleasing kill turns into a point for the opposition. As now that opposition on offense, as they send it to the Cougars. Haywood, this one touches some hand. She says ball does not lie, gets a kill in the end, puts her team back up by 1. So Katie Heidel checks back in for another serve here for CUC. Heidel had a serve violation her last time up when she stepped over the line. So her serve is good. And that one sent right back to the opposing Foresters by Levoy. And that's going to touch the corner, though, for Lake Forest and get them the point. 18-18 the score. As Lake Forest getting some subs in and out. Coming back to serve now is number 9, Lily Robinson. Lake Forest setter with 9 assists on the night. And Grace Haywood says hello to Lily Robinson, sends a rocket her way. Robinson can't respond, and CUC, they take the lead right back now, 19-18.
Being a smaller outside, Grace has to put her whole body into those hits. She fully uses it as she sends it down line.
Isabel Vernango now, after the Haywood kill. CUC senior setter sends it over. Franz responds with a strong kill of her own. And we're tied back up at 19. Man, it does not get much closer than games like this. Set one settled by just 4 points, and we're knotted up in the late stages of set number 2. And throughout tonight, no team has really been able to separate themselves from the other. It's just been close the whole way through.
To win this game, their serve receive is the main factor. Both sides are coming in with hot serves, so they need to make sure they don't shank those balls.
Franz continues that trend with a service ace, puts Lake Forest back in charge, 20-19 now. CUC has led for seemingly most of this set as we see Franz now. We see the impact of the gym. Franz saying that the ball, she exchanged the ball with the game crew and saying that it's too wet. She wants something to wipe it off. Again, Van, we talked about just how hot it is here in Geisman. You said that it was going to become a problem, defensively at least, with players slipping around. Now we're seeing the heat and all the sweat take its course on the serving action.
Especially through those block touches. That's where mainly the sweat transfers from. I wonder who the culprit of that is.
So yeah, that ball has been passed around a lot tonight. These front lines putting in a lot of action. So after some conversation between the referees, not exactly sure what everyone's asking for. I think Lake Forest is wanting a rag to wipe the ball down, but they're not getting it. They're just going to have to play with it. This one's sent over Haywood now to Vernango. Here comes Eve Dickin, blocked up front, but it goes out. Looks like it hit a pin, excuse me, whatever the call. It will be a point Lake Forest, and that's going to force a timeout for Andrew Palmer and his Cougars as they trail Lake Forest 21-19. We're going to take a quick break up here in the booth, and when we come back, Lake Forest looks to close out set number 2, while the Cougars look to avoid going in that 2-0 hole.
CUChicago.edu for more information on our university. We appreciate you tuning in to today's game and hope to see you at CUC very soon.
Timeout over as we get set to resume play, and for a set that CUC has led for most of, Lake Forest point ahead here in the late stages as they currently lead 21-19 thanks to a 3-0 scoring run.
Seems like the Cougars are struggling with siding out towards the latter half of the game. To close out the set, they need to make sure their first ball contact is perfect to get that first rally going.
As we get a break here, the officials looking at the game balls. Again, sweat has been an issue so far tonight just due to how hot it is in the gym.
It's either that or the humidity.
Say Geisman, whatever the source of the sweat, Geisman's got plenty of it. Not to mention, again, it was a pretty hot day outside in River Forest, lower 90s, upper 80s, likely the temperature now as night continues to fall outside. As Isabel Vernango now sets up Grace Haywood. She responds, but getting all the way down for the dig was Grace Franz. Able to just get a piece of the ball, and because of it, Lake Forest now 3 points away from claiming set number 2.
Looks like any way possible they are getting those kills.
4-0 scoring run for the Foresters now. Christensen sends one over. Coming in and making the diving dig was Tursky. This one's going to hit the pin, hit the net. They'll call 4-touch rule on the Foresters. So 22-20 is our score here. Katie Rufer giving instruction to our team from the sideline. 5th year with the Foresters. MWC Coach of the Year last year. She helped guide them to 2nd in the conference as the Cougars back on the prowl now. They send it over. Foresters respond. This one's going to be sent out. Point Foresters. Cougars just got a tip of it. And it's now 23-20 in favor of the Foresters. We've seen a lot of close tips like that, a lot of close touches that the regular eye can't see, but those officials down courtside, they're picking up. As Renango now sets up Haywood, going back for it's Robinson. Foresters now send it over. Eve Dickin, it's blocked up front, but the Foresters cannot respond in time. Touches the ground. And Van, even though the Cougars, they can afford to give up one more point here. It's 23 points for the Foresters. There's something about playing when the other team's at 24 points already. It's a lot of extra pressure. You cannot mess up. So I think the goal, as obvious as it may sound, is just avoid giving up that 24th point. Point goes to Lake Forest. Cougars, excuse me, on the Lake Forest error. So they're back within 1, 23-22 now. Still in favor of Lake Forest. The Cougars have some work to do yet in set 2. Shira Marin. Robinson. She's going to set up Geegan. Vernango right there. Marin now for Dickin. Off the blocker's hands and out. Tied ball game. 23-23. That's going to cause a Lake Forest timeout as both teams 2 points away from claiming set 2. Again, you do have to win by 2, so good chance we might see some extra volleyball here in set 2. But during the timeout, let's keep it here in the booth. Look at some of the team stats, almost neck to neck in every category. Attacks, 76-75 in favor of CUC. Kills, 22-20 in favor of Lake Forest. Assist errors, 15-14 in favor of the Cougars. They have more, so I don't know if favor is the right word, but man, you look at the stats. I mean, these two teams are neck and neck. The score is a perfect reflection of the kind of game we're getting in the box score. So on the court, what needs to happen for one of these two teams to really pull away with set 2 here? In the Foresters' case, take that 2-0 lead. In the Cougars' case, tie this one up 1-1.
Seems like defense is the key to winning this game. Both sides have been siding out well right now, keeping the ball alive. It seems also with that side of defense, playing smart with their hits. We've seen Eve, Grace, and also Geegan on the Foresters side, using that block in any way possible. The key to good offense is a good defense, and they are clearly showing that out on the court.
Yeah, hitting percentages very low for this game. Lake Forest at a 107 mark, the Cougars at an 066 mark. So neither of these offenses performing particularly well. A good way to change that is some defensive showcase. As Marin now, her serve. Crucial point here. Both teams tied up 23-23, and it's going to go to Lake Forest.
That roll to the campfire again, killing both sides.
Franz put that one in no man's land. Isabel Vernango just too far behind the ball to make a play on it, and now the Cougars are facing a set 2 loss as Lake Forest has set point here. Looking at tape, a 2-0 lead in the match. And before we get underway here, we're going to get a timeout called. So this time we'll take a break here. Lake Forest 1 point away from claiming set 2, going up 2-0 in the match. Cougars trying to make sure that doesn't happen. We'll be back in just a minute on the Cougar Sports Network.
Thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information about the women's volleyball program, head to cucougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game.
Timeouts wrapping up here. Lake Forest, they're back on the court. They're ready to finish off this second set. The Cougars, they got to score a point here to make sure that doesn't happen. 24-23 your score here in set 2.
This point may be the most crucial point of the game. It would either go to the Foresters, making them win the second set, continuing that momentum, or on the Cougars side, if they get that, they can continue maybe breaking the momentum that the Foresters have been building from set 1.
Not often you'll see a 2-0 come from behind win in the match. So Cougars looking to avoid falling in that hole. And it's going to start with a serve from Julie Barrientos. Her serve is good. Marin to Vernango. Here comes Foley. It's blocked and it goes out. Point CUC. We're tied up here. Extra volleyball is in store in set number 2. Excellent response there from the Cougars fan. They get the ball off the serve. All they need is one offensive possession. And now we got a brand new ball game late in set 2. Geegan, her attack curbed as here comes Brown with the kill. CUC.
The Brown abusing both sides, both the right wings and left wing have not been able to get her kills up.
25-24 in favor of the Cougars. They're 1 point away now from taking set 2. They were a point away from losing it. They've had a 2-point run now to take the lead. Then we'll keep it here. Obviously, it was a small sample size. We only saw 2 points scored. But, I mean, what did you see in those sets, maybe compared to what we've been seeing from CUC that led them to taking the lead here?
Their offense. We have a lot of snipers on our side using the block, using any any court space available to get that point, using any means necessary, tipping, rolling. Both sides are just trying to get the ball in out of play.
So look at some of the stat leaders. Grace Haywood, 10 kills. That leads all players. Grace Franz of Lake Forest is the next closest with 7. In terms of assists, who else but Isabel Vernango with 18 leading all players. Lily Robinson, her opposing setter, with 12. She's in second. And so far, your defensive leader, Isabel Vernango, she has 8 digs. That's most on the Cougars, but the game title right now going to Mary Geegan. She's got 9. In terms of blocks, you want to keep talking about defense. Talk about Acacia Brown. She's got 4 on the night already. The transfer making her name known. Her first game in Geisman. But here we go. Set point for the Cougars. Dickens serve. Played, and it's blocked up front. Set point Cougars. They win set number 2. We're tied up 1-1 in the match.
Crucial set for the Cougars, maybe causing the morale for the Foresters to go down. Let's see how each side holds up in the next set.
26-24 is your final score from set number 2. The Cougars tie things up 1-1 in the match. It's now the best of 3 on the night as we get set to head to set number 3. The teams will switch sides again. We'll take a break here in the booth as well. And when we come back, set 3 about to get underway between the Foresters and the Cougars, all tied up at 1. set 3, less than a minute away from starting in Geisman. We got a brand new ball game as the match tied 1-1 after the Cougars took set 2 in extra volleyball, 26-24. Again, the Cougars, they played well in set 1. They only lost at 25-21. It wasn't like a blowout for Lake Forest or anything, but what did you see in set 2 that the Cougars maybe improved upon, that they tweaked from their set 1 loss that led them to come away with a crucial set 2 win, especially a dramatic one at the very end?
As Taylor is singing right now, they were ready for it. They were finally on their serve-receive game. They were getting good ups, and on defense, they were transitioning, which allowed them to get those points. Communication was the main thing that changed during that set, on top of the serve-receive, which allowed for them to break those leads and come from that deficit towards the latter half of the set.
I also think the energy levels, we saw the crowd really start to get into it, especially towards the end. The players were all fired up every single point they got. So this team maybe starting to come together a little bit after possibly some first home game jitters in the first set. But the players back on the court, again, relatively the same lineup we've seen from CUC. Grace Haywood, Eve Dickin, Michaela Levoy up front, and then in the back, Marin, Vernango, and Foley as the Cougars receive some last words from Coach Andrew Palmer, first year at the helm here at CUC. Meanwhile, Lake Forest, they'll be the first one to serve here in set number 3.
As the song is singing right now, Palmer is ready for the satisfaction that is going out on the court, making sure they pass well.
The CUC DJ, a.k.a. our bosses, Sydney Ploska-Slaher, and our sports information director, Kayla McLeod, always on top of the ball on song choice. As we're back in play here in set 3, Grace Haywood, her attack hits the pin.
Just shy of the tips. Seems like she wasn't ready for transition right there. And it is the first point of the set. So those wonky points are ready to get out now, especially after a hard win just like that last set.
Yeah, we haven't seen either team really pull away at all today. As this one is blocked, it hit the pin though, so point CUC. My point here is that as long as you can stay within striking range of the opponent, you got a good chance to come out on top, because either of these teams have shown capable of going on 3-0, 4-0 runs when necessary.
Eve definitely brought a hammer to build that tool shed. She's using that block effectively.
They can had a nice defensive weekend at Illinois College. A couple of blocks and service aces all within one game. As there's a falling play by Julia Tursky, doing her own defensive showcasing. Tursky now sets up Franz, Vernango to Marin, and now it'll be Folio to just send over a strong attack. Looked like she's ready for a freebie, and Vernango unable to play that one as she was already on the ground. So 2-1. The lead now for Lake Forest. Serving is Franz.
Seems like she misread that and was ready in transit, but off the block it moved, which caused her to miss that touch.
Franz. Her serve is now played by the Cougars as Foley's attack goes straight into the net. Attack error gives Lake Forest a 3-1 lead. Franz. Marin to Vernango. Here comes Dickin. Blocked up front. Lake Forest keeps it alive though. Now they have to send it over. Here's Foley to Vernango. Dickin again. Lighter touch this time, and it pays off.
She is crafty, Eve, today. Using every spot she can, mixing in tips, rolls, using the block, any way to get that point.
Now to serve is Marin, Puerto Rico native. Shira Marin, a 5'5" junior. As this one sent into the middle of the court. No Cougar able to get there. 4-2 lead now for Lake Forest. Marin, one of the several new faces on the CUC team.
This is where the game starts to slow down now. Each point they have to clean up that sweat, which causes each side to use their time effectively to recuperate, recollect, and get out those errors.
Back at play now. Here's Vernango. A little awkward attack there from Brown. Lake Forest able to read it, and Marin kept it alive for a second. Dickin gets fooled by the net. Point Lake Forest, as this is the first time, Van, we've really seen someone come out of the gate firing. Lake Forest up 5-2 here early in set 3. Every other set, it was neck and neck until about the middle portion. Service error gets the Cougars back within 2 now. 5-3 the score. As Dickin the serve. Dickin serve. Sent over and blocked up front. Acacia Brown building a brick wall here at Geisman. Already 5 blocks on the night. That should go down as number 6.
Brown really making this place her home, figuratively and literally.
As there's a block from Kate Foley. She gets in on the action. Foley now a little floater. It hits the pin. And it'll be a Lake Forest point because of it. They're up by 2 again, 6-4 here. Acacia Brown, 6 blocks through just over 2 sets played here. In the very young season, she's averaging .38 blocks per set. So she is well over that mark here tonight as this play goes out off the Cougars' hands. 7-4 now. Barrientos to serve. Hampshire, Illinois product from Hampshire High School. Vernango sets up Foley, a standing attack. And now the attack goes way too far. Too much sauce on that one. It goes out of bounds. Cougars back within 2, 7-5. Foley to serve. And there's an errant reception on the serve by Geegan. Service ace for Kate Foley. Cougars within 1.
Those float serves that are tight to net are the hardest to pass, so Foley using her court space and the size of the serve to her advantage. But just put a little bit too much power on that last one.
That serve a bit too much, like Van said. So from service ace to service error, Foley now will check out of the game for Brooke Christensen. 8-6 your score here in set number 3. Foresters on top, the team on your left. As the serve from Carly Balzanto is handled by the Cougars, and Acacia Brown, there she is again, gets a kill this time. An excellent first home appearance for number 1 in maroon. She checks out, gets a breather on the bench as Katie Heidel checks in now for a serve. Heidel has been held to serving duties tonight. This one is good as Forrester's on the attack. This one at the net. Levoy pokes it back over. Forrester's back on it. This one hits the net, drops behind the front line of CUC for a Lake Forest point. Makes the set 9-7. A crucial set 3. The winner of this one takes a 2-1 lead in the match. Has a chance to clinch it in set 4. Christensen, Vernango, here comes Haywood, and Not much Lake Forest can do about that. Haywood gets a hold of one. There's not much anyone can do. So back to serve is Vernango. Vernango serve up and over. This one too hot for the Cougars to handle, off the hands of Marin and out. Lake Forest builds their lead back up to 2, 10-8. Lily Robinson to serve now for Lake Forest, the setter. Having a nice day so far with 13 assists, and Haywood gets a hold of that one. You know what that means. It's point time for the Cougars. They pull back within one, 10-9.
She was headhunting today, trying to get every corner, every spot on the court to get that kill any way possible. Much more of a power hitter. She does tip once in a while, but she's more focused on that powerful swing.
Yeah, she's got a lot of power behind her, but she is just a very smart player at that. She knows when to take her foot off the gas a little and just float one over, catch the defense off guard. But she's been going to that power stroke a lot. As Eve Dickens' attack is blocked up front. The Cougars able to rebound off of it. Foley's little floater is stopped. That blocked but drops down. Point CUC.
Seems like both sides are using an effective cover on the side of the blocks, using every defensive player, picking that up compared to the first set.
Point Lake Forest, I meant to say. They're now up 11-9. As we now have to wait some substitutions here for Lake Forest. As Franz picks up the ball.
Seems like they're now running a DS.
Defensive specialist on the court for Lake Forest. Meanwhile, the Cougars, they just got to send one over after a missed time setup. And this one floated over the front line defense of Dickin, and Levoy touches down for the Lake Forest point. They're now up by 3, 12-9 your score. Franz, service error as the Cougars back within a pair now. Both teams in double digits. 12-10 your score in favor of the visiting Foresters. Marin to serve. Shira Marin. First year at CUC as a junior. As now she's going to try to set up Eve Dickin, whose attempt goes nowhere. The Cougars got to play some defense, and they do. Eve Dickin, Acacia Brown. Crucial block up front from that duo. Acacia Brown has been unleashed on that front row defensively. Eve Dickin lending the helping hand on that one. Now here's Marin to Dickin. Her attack popped up. Lake Forest not done yet. This one sent up as Brown tries to flip it over her head. Instead, it's dunked back on her for a point, and Lake Forest by a pair once again, 13-11. Julia Tursky. Serve handled by the Cougars here. Kate Foley bounces it off the net. What an effort there from Lily Robinson. A rolling dig. Back on her feet now as Eve Dickens' attack is bounced around and eventually gets hit under the net for the CUC point. 13-12 your score. CUC hanging around the Foresters.
Eve has really picked up some steam from the second set to the third, getting her first kill in the second set.
Dickin now at 7 kills on the night. That is second on the team to Grace Haywood's 12. Tied for second in the match, Acacia Brown. Just put me on the basketball court with the dunk. And we are knotted up here, 13-13. Dickin, a service error. will lead to a sub here. Dickin checks out first time tonight. She's taken out. Coming in for the first time is number 19, Sophie Kovakovic, defensive specialist out of Huntley, Illinois. So Coach Palmer deciding to go with defense here. His team's trailing 1 in the middle of set 3. Haywood, and that one popped up perfectly, sets Mary Deegan up for yam time. She sends it down for the point, puts her team up 15-13 now. Briantos to serve here. As Marin, an errant dig. As Isabel Vernango almost goes crashing into Coach Palmer. And Coach Palmer is going to call a timeout now as his team trailing Lake Forest by 3. 16-13 here in set number 16-13 here in set number 3. Again, the winner of this set takes a crucial 2-1 lead in the match. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, find out who's able to pull it off here on the Cougar Sports Network. Cougars head their way back onto the court while Lake Forest still talking things over. Lake Forest on top of CUC 16-13. They're on a 3-0 scoring run right now. Courtesy of a service ace from Julie Bierentos before the timeout.
Seems like Palmer is trying to focus on defense more. Kovovanic, who was DS last year, specialized in the right wing, using every dig she can and making sure that they stay on top of their defense.
Bierentos, her serve, played by Marin. She got caught up with Kovakovic. They're able to keep it going, and then that attack results in a Cougar point as it touched off some Lake Forest fingertips. Looked like it was just out on CUC. Instead, Lake Forest with the deflection. CUC serving now within 2, 16-14. Your score as going up and delivering the kill was Riley Stapley. Brooke Christensen checks in as Kate Foley takes a seat on the bench for a minute. Strong serve played by Kovakovic as Vernango sets up Haywood. Big block, but it goes out. A strong attack from Haywood. Lake Forest gets some hands on it, but they can't control it. And it's a 17-15 game now, still in favor of the visiting Foresters. Katie Heidel will check in to serve once more, being a serving specialist for CUC tonight. Her serve is over and down for a service ace.
As we talked about before, those short floats that go right above the net are the hardest ones to get up, so Katie using that to her advantage.
Katie Heidel, a junior on this team, who looking to get an expanded role in her junior year. First year under Coach Palmer's. Haywood's attack popped up. Lake Forest in desperation mode. Does it get over? It hits the ceiling, so it does not. Geisman providing all kinds of advantages tonight for the home team as they knot up the game 17-17.
With a smaller gym, it's easier to improve your serve receive, but it's also very well-known home court advantage.
You can see one of the lights swinging on the ceiling after it got hit by the volleyball. As there's going to be a point in favor of Wake Forest thanks to Grace Franz's attack. New face checking in for Lake Forest, Mia Atkins. We have not seen her in quite a bit. She did start the game. Meanwhile, going back to serve is Stapley. Kovakovic pops it up as Vernango sets up Haywood, hits some hands and goes out. Cougars tied up again at 18.
Haywood just been abusing that line today. Those shots are hard and powerful, and like we said, all that might goes into all that hit, allowing her to use all her power as she turns into the court.
You can't find a much better duo out there than Vernango and Haywood, as they definitely help each other's stats out, and now it'll be a service ace for Vernango as the Cougars take their first lead in quite some time. Coach Katie Roofer looking over her Foresters team. They're suddenly trailing the CUC squad by 1 after leading for much of the second set. Vernango, her serve is mishandled. Another service ace. The Cougars up by a pair as we are quickly approaching 25 points. Roofer trying to rile her team up. Vernango serve. Can she get 3 straight? No. Lake Forest able to get this one back over the net. Here's Haywood, blocked down on the ground. CUC running rampant here in set 3, and that'll finally force a timeout from Katie Roofer as her team, who's been leading for most of this third set, finds themselves down 3 now. So we're gonna head to a timeout break. The Cougars, when they come back out, they're just 4 points away from taking a crucial set 3 and a 2-1 lead in the match. So timeout about to end here as the final buzzer goes off. CUC on a 4-0 run as Isabel Vernango gets set for her next serve. She's been on that service line a lot as her team's on the 4-0 run. This one goes off her arms and out. So point in favor of Lake Forest, excuse me. So they stop the bleeding, pull back within 3 now.
This is the most crucial time. It's this 2020 area where 21-19's similar points where the Cougars and the Foresters have been caught up in both sets.
Cougars now have to play some defense. Eve Dickin put a lot on that one. She's trying to say Foresters touched it. The officials disagree with that one, so the point goes to Lake Forest, 21-20 in favor of CUC. Lake Forest has come out, gotten right back in this set with a few consecutive points. Vernango, Haywood, that's off some fingers, but Lake Forest can rebound. Franz now. Haywood pops it up. Vernango, Haywood again. Lake Forest, some strong defense. Franz one more time, and that results in a tied ball game.
Defense has been the winner of this game, and whoever comes out strong, getting good ups, staying scrappy, will ultimately win this set.
CUC now finds themselves tied after being up by quite a few. As Haywood, does it go off the fingers? It does. Point Concordia up 22-21. Katie Rufer sharing her words with the far side official. Not happy with that call as the refs took some time to talk about what happened.
Haywood seems to be 2 away from hitting that 20 mark. Hopefully she get a double-double on the set tonight.
And 20 kills is on the horizon for Haywood as she's at 18. She's also at 8 digs, so some strong defense, and she will get that double-double Van alluded to as she goes back to serve now. She does have a pair of service aces already on the night. Giving the ball a good few bounces, really making sure she knows what she's serving again, just because of the heat in here and the sweat. There's a strong attack. Grace Franz. Whenever you line her up, she absolutely knocks the house down with her rockets. And we're tied up again, 22-22. Franz's serve, and it stays in. Kate Foley elects to let that one fall. And it's inside the line. So Andrew Palmer, he's gonna call a timeout here. 23-22, late in set number 3. Van will keep it here. Look at some of the stats so far in the night. Again, neck and neck is the term to use. Attacks, their teams are separated by just 1. Kills by just 1. Attack errors by 2. Hitting percentage separated by less than 30. Serve set assists separated by 1. Service errors is just a difference of 2. Service aces a difference of 1. Digs a difference of 1. Blocks, the Cougars have a little stronger performance, up 7-4. It's interesting to note, Coach Palmer taking his team huddle over, maybe trying to rile them up a little bit. As Van, it seems like the energy's kind of been dying down ever since Lake Forest went on that run following the last time out to tie it up. So I think Coach Palmer trying to get this team riled up, because we saw in set number 2 what happens when this team plays energized.
Yes, they need to pick that up. It seems like also the attackers are tailing behind Grace, as she has almost a 4-point hitting average, 0.4. If she keeps hitting positive and the other Cougars hit positive, they can beat out the other team. But that just depends on how they're hitting, how they feel, and if they keep their energy up.
So Grace Franz, she's done the most damage for Lake Forest tonight with a team leading 11 kills. Her serve is sent back over the net by CUC. Lake Forest back on attack. Now CUC able to get control. Foley back to Franz. Not too much on that one. Here goes an attempt from Geegan. It's blocked and it goes off Lake Forest. Point CUC. We're tied up again at 23. It's a 1-2 now.
Seems like each set is close as they mark out this home opener.
Say this set. As this one hits the net, bounces over. Shira Marin. One of the most fortunate bounces we've seen in quite some time. And because of it, Cougars 1 point away from taking set number 3, a 2-1 lead in the match. So we're gonna get a timeout here, catch our breath while the Cougars talk things over, figure out what they need to do to clinch this one. We'll be back in just a second on the Cougar Sports Network. Cougars, timeout is done. Lake Forest, the initial callers of the timeout, still talking things over. Shira Marin, her bounce on that last service ace is the reason the Cougars just one away from taking a 2-1 set lead in the match.
This point seems crucial for the Cougars, but also is important for the Foresters. Each side relying on the morale for both points.
And that one goes just out. Service error on Marin. And because of it, we're going to need extra volleyball for a second straight set. Both teams tied 24-24. You need to win by 2. As serving is Tursky. Haywood. Vernango now. Here goes Dickin. Her attack is stopped. This one sent back over Marin to Vernango. She sets up Brown. This one not able to be corralled by Lake Forest. And the Cougars 1 point away from taking set number 3 once again. Eve Dickin back to get the volley started. Dickin, her serve is played by Lake Forest. They have to score here, do they? Yes, it stays in.
That ball barely sneaked in, just right on the corner and right on the line too.
25-25, so we'll need at least another 2 points here. Team can win at 27 if they score the next 2 points. Serve from Barriento is played by Kovakovic. And Brown, a strong attack, airborne, not enough on it. That one blocked up front and out. Point Lake Forest, now they're in charge of the set point.
With these games going into overtime, it's definitely a crucial point for the momentum of the games.
26-25 in favor of Lake Forest. Kovakovic to Vernango. Here comes Foley. It's in the net. Point Lake Forest. And set 3 goes the way of the Foresters.
Tough way to end the set too, into the net.
Attack error from Kate Foley ends this 3rd set. And Lake Forest now 1 set win away from taking tonight's match against the Cougars. So we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to see if the Foresters can do just that and walk away with their 4th straight win to start this season, or if the Cougars are able to bounce back, win 2 straight sets, and walk away 500 on the year. Find out what happens when we're back on the Cougar Sports Network.
Tuning into today's game. To stay up to date on all things CUC women's volleyball, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CUC_volleyball. We'll see you on campus soon.
Here in Geisman Gymnasium, set 4 about to get kicked off as the Lake Forest Foresters are on top of the Cougars, 2-1. And we saw a set 3, another overtime set of volleyball, this time falling in favor of the Foresters. Cougars, they're in do-or-die mode now. If they do not win this 4th set, they're not going home. They're going to stay home with the loss. So what needs to change? Maybe what was the main reason for that set 3 loss? What made Lake Forest pull away with it? And what do the Cougars need to do to change that around, come out with the win here in set 4?
The Cougars definitely need to increase their attacking percentage besides Haywood. Haywood is hitting positive, but most of the team is hitting around the 1 mark or negative. So they need to pick that up and get some more rounded offense. We're seeing a change in offense too. Lily Hunt is now walking onto the court too. She has a heavy hand, so it will provide a different style of offense with Grace too having a heavy hand too. But she's a little smaller, so it's a different type of hitting. Yeah. Also, the heat is causing the game to be a little bit different, and with these sets being prolonged, it's harder for the athletes to stay on their A game all the time because they are getting overworked. But that's just how the game of volleyball goes, and because we are still in a heat wave, basically, the weather is going to be awful.
As Van said, a well-rounded offense for CUC might be the key. Haywood leads all killers with 18. And then next on the Cougars after Haywood is Eve Dickin with just 7, Acacia Brown with 6, Kate Foley with 5. And then after those 3, no one else on this team has a kill. So just 4 players accounting for all the kills on the Cougars. Meanwhile, Lake Forest, they're able to share the love amongst 7 players. But the Cougars, they start off on a good foot here in set number 4. A service ace from Isabel Vernango. Not a better way you can really start a set.
That ball floated from left to right, causing it harder to pass.
Vernango now. Her serve is popped up. And it eventually falls for Lake Forest. So 1-1 the match. The set is tied. The matches are 2-1 in favor of Lake Forest.
Seemed like that ball almost carried. It was thrown down almost in a sense that it was from the back of the hand.
Marin, a high pop-up off the dig. Here comes Lily Hunt, the first time we've seen her tonight. As there's some fingertips in front. Grace Haywood now, she sends an attempt over. Lake Forest is right there. Ball at the net, Cougars bounce it back. Lake Forest can't lift it over. Point CUC, take the 2-1 lead.
Hunt got that roof. She was a blocker, a middle blocker last year, now transitioned to right side under Palmer's direction. This is done so that the outsides on the other side have a big block compared to just one with the middle.
Lily Hunt, a standout freshman last season, blocking-wise. As Dan said, Coach Palmer may be trying to get her more oriented on the offense. 2-2 the score now, and going back to serve is the libero, Julia Tursky. Tursky, she's going to get a service ace out of it as Marin sends that ball into the officials' ladder. 3-2 the score. As Tursky's serve hits the top of the net, able to still make its way over unimpeded. Kate Foley now, her attempt goes out. Quick 4-2 lead here for Lake Forest.
Seems like the Cougars are losing some steam and losing some morale, so they need to pick it up right here in the set.
Tursky, and that'll help the Cougars out as her serve goes straight into the net. So the Cougars get a break, pull back within 1, 4-3. Marin, her serve. And that's going to be a nice floater. Soft touch by Stapley. Gets the point for Lake Forest. They're up 5-3. And the ball in to serve is Barrientos. You want to indicate just how close this game as a whole has been. As Lily Hunt gets her first kill of the night off the tip of a Forrester and out. But in terms of the closeness, in set 1, 8 ties, set 2, 15, and set 3, 9. And then a total of 12 lead changes in those 3 sets. This game, the definition of back and forth. That ball sent out, and we have another tie here, 5-5. Lily Hunt serve. Floater, but to stop it is Vernango. Now Foley, diving effort from Franz, keeps the play alive. Now Hunt pops it up. Here comes Vernango to Foley. Nice sliding play there by Barrientos. Vernango, Haywood blocked up front. Haywood tried to kick it, almost did the splits. Futile effort as she can't get anything on it. 6-5 lead.
Seems like Palmer's going back to his original plan on focusing on offense, which won them the second set.
Egan is ready to serve. And it's going to be a whistle. Violation on the Cougars pre-serve.
They were out of rotation.
So some logistical error on the Cougars side makes it 7-5 in favor of Lake Forest. Haywood to Vernango to Brown. Finishes off the play with a point. She gets her team within 5 now. Within 2 now, within 1, excuse me. Scoreboard updating 7-6 your score. Foley, and she's going to get a service ace. Lake Forest unable to handle it.
This is exactly where they need to establish themselves with these service aces and making sure the Foresters do not side out.
Franz, a strong attack. Able to get in there before flying out of bounds, so they retake the lead, 8-7 the score. And it's going back to serve is Stapley.
You can tell by the way that hit was pounded down that the Foresters and Franz has a heavy hand and good contact point.
Christensen to Vernango. Here comes Haywood. Nothing out of it as Lake Forest on the attack. And Hunt popped it up, didn't realize Brooke Christensen was behind her waiting for it. Because of it, goes out of bounds. Point Lake Forest, they're up 9-7 now.
If only the Cougars could have mics like us, they could get those communication errors out of the way.
Say, Lily Hunt just did not realize Christensen was sitting behind her. Lily Hunt, this is her first set of action tonight as well, so she's trying to get into rhythm, though she looks in rhythm there. A nice one-handed play. Gets it back to the side of Lake Forest. That one rides the net a second. Off the hand of DeCalk. She laughs about it.
You got to laugh about those. Hunt used to not play back row. She was a middle blocker. Usually they don't play defense, so it's interesting to see her new role on the team going all the way around 6 rows.
Stapley, a squad up 3 as the Cougars. Haywood, a strong attack. Lake Forest able to corral it. Here comes Franz. Marin gets a piece of it going all the way back. Brooke Christensen, noble pursuit, just not in time. And that's going to force a timeout from Andrew Palmer. His team down 11-7 in a must-win set 4. Lake Forest now just 14 points away from claiming the set and the match. So we'll have more action when we come back on the Cougar Sports Network in just a second.
More about Concordia Chicago, head to cuchicago.edu for more information on our university. We appreciate you tuning in to today's game and hope to see you at CUC very soon.
Was Sweet Caroline blasts through the Geisman gym. The Cougars take their way back onto the court, trailing by 4, 11-7. As the Foresters, they work their way out now.
Hopefully the Cougars, like this song, could establish a sweet home for their home opener tonight.
First game here at Geisman. You say your music puns are easily going to be the best part of these broadcasts going forward.
I'm excited to do those this year. And just as excited as the Cougars on the other side of the net as that ball tailed into the net.
Look at that, great at making puns and great at transitions. Van Gato right at home on the Cougar Sports Network. Meanwhile, the Cougars able to pull back within 3, 11-8. Katie Heidel checks in. Her serve is good. Lake Forest. Atkins has to flip it over with one hand. Haywood, a strong attempt. Geegan there. The ball takes a weird path through the air. Lake Forest able to track it down. Vernango. Here comes Haywood now. Blocked up front. Falls back to the CUC side. Haywood's going to get another shot at that. She goes with the light touch that time. The floater, it stopped though. Here's Geegan to Hunt. Now Vernango pushes it over Atkins, and that's going to be a violation on Atkins. 2-touch called, and the Cougars pull within another point now. And it's now 11-9. A long volley ending with the violation. Atkins tries to get some redemption. She does. Follows up the error with a kill. And it's now 12-9 in favor of the team in black. Cougars trying to give their home crowd taste of victory on their first night in Geisman. As Haywood wound up for that one, but it's blocked right back in her face.
Seems like the Foresters have built up this wall during this fourth set, making it harder for Haywood and all the Cougars to hit the ball over the net.
Some lighter touches might be necessary, some higher arcs as Levoy, she's just gonna power through those blockers' hands, gets her team within 3, 13-10 now. As Vernango goes back to serve. Levoy in the match now with a total of just 1 kill. That was her first one. She does have a pair of blocks as Lake Forest responds with a point of their own. 14-10 the score. And going back to serve is Franz.
The Cougars need to stop the bleeding right here. It's crucial, a 5-point difference. That's when it starts to get hard and the morale starts to go down.
And this is kind of the first set we've seen one team really be in control, as Lily Hunt trying her best to prevent that from becoming further true.
Growing up on farmland, she definitely knows how to use an axe to chop down those Foresters. Let's see her continue hitting at the net.
So I don't know what a Forester is exactly. If it is a human, that pun just got a whole lot darker. Either way, we're back in play here. Lake Forest able to bat it over the net. Now they send it back over. Hunt there. Vernango to Foley, and it almost touches the ground. It finally does. Some desperation play from Lake Forest. Keeps it alive a little longer than maybe it should have been. And it's now a 14-12 point lead. The Cougars trying to crawl back in this second set.
Robinson showing off her scrappy skills on the court, but was just shy, the whole team trying to get that ball over.
And going down for the dig was Tursky, but she sends it out of bounds. And because of it, Grace Haywood will go back to serve again. Her team trailing by just one now.
Seems like Haywood and Varango are leading the Cougars with their service aces tonight.
Haywood has 3. Meanwhile, Vernango with 4. Kate Foley also up there with 3 of her own. And then single service aces to Shira Marin, as well as Katie Heidel. Cougars are going to need a couple more now as they trail Lake Forest by 2. Foresters just 10 away, from pulling off the set and match win. Cougars too many touches on that one. Lake Forest expands their lead, 16-13 the score now.
Seems like on the service side, the Cougars are doing well, but on the service eve, they are falling right now. So they need to get that energy and reset as they try to side out.
Foley, that one hits some blockers but touches the ground before anyone gets under it. 16-14 now. Cougars have been trailing for most of this fourth set, but they have been able to stay within just a few points, keep things tight so they can hopefully go on a run. Vernango, here's Hunt, blocked up front. Big block by Mary Geegan and Riley Stapley.
Seems like the Foresters have fully established a wall on this side of the net.
Not much is getting past them front row-wise in this fourth set, as they're now up by 3. Barrientos back to serve. She has a pair of aces on the night. A lot of aces to go around. Blocked up front. Cougars play it.
It is critical for the Cougars to involve all their hitters. It seems like Brown getting a kill right there.
Hunt now tries to get her team within 1, 17-15. Both teams within 10 of that 25-point mark, and it's yam time. Acacia Brown.
She just bounced that ball right there, almost at 10-foot line, but Brown swinging and hot.
Brown, we've seen her do that a few times. Looks like she'd be just as comfortable playing on CUC women's basketball as she would on the volleyball court. She's got the hops, and she's throwing these balls down. As that one goes out.
She could be a multifaceted athlete, and she could throw, as you said, maybe softball career too.
And because of it, it's 17-17. Acacia Brown, again, her first year at CUC as a transfer, so plenty of room to explore the many athletic teams school has to offer. Meanwhile, she's on the court, however, as her opposition controlling the ball. Now it's back to the Cougars. Vernango, here's Brown again!
As we stated before, this is why the Cougars need to involve all their hitters. By increasing that hitting stats, moving the ball around, they are forming connections that will cause the game to be confusing for the other side for the Foresters. It's trickier, it's harder to play defense. This is why Varango is one of the top setters in the game, because she knows how to get those assists and dish out those balls.
Acacia Brown making herself right at home at CUC, her first appearance here as a Cougar. So the teams call a timeout. We're going to take a break up here as well. We'll be back in just a second. The Cougars, they now lead set number 4, 18-17, as we're closing in on the finish. Buzzer sounding here in Concordia now as the timeout is over. What a run it's been for the Cougars. 4-0 scoring run. And Van, I talked about the key of just staying in the game, because when you get a scoring run like this, you're able to immediately jump ahead as long as you're within a couple points. You talked about not falling back by 5. Cougars did just that, and now they're in control. Except not in control of the folded up basketball hoops, which that ball took a bad bounce off of. So we're tied up again at 18.
Looks like Shy just barely stood up when she was digging that, which caused that ball to go in that direction.
18-18. Serve here from Geegan, a close one, and Geisman wire to wire. Tasia Brown. As Lake Forest has it, that one hits the pin. 19-18, CUC favor.
Brown and Durango got a little wonky footed on that slide, but if they increase that tempo, that would definitely be deadly.
Shio Morin, and the Cougars end up turning defense to offense. They increase their lead now to 2, 20-18.
The Foresters, known for the wilderness, should set up a tent for that dump right there.
20-18 as Kate Foley sends it over a low dig. Foresters can't rebound off of it. And it's now a 3-point lead for CUC, 21-18, and that's going to force another Foresters timeout as Katie Roofer finds her squad down by 3 instead of being up like they were for most of the set. So Van, we'll keep it here. Look at some of the individual stat leaders for this team. Grace Haywood still leading all players with 18. She does have the double-double, though. We were on watch for as she has 11 digs now. Now the question is, can she hit 20 kills as well, make it a 20 double-double? Right behind her, though, is Grace Franz, 13 kills. She's the next closest. But then maybe the story of this fourth set is Acacia Brown. She's been having a great game already. Now she's all the way up to 10 kills and 7 blocks. So Acacia Brown, again, a transfer to CUC, doing great work offensively and doing great work defensively.
Seems like she's settling into home very nicely out here at Geisman. Also, the Cougars and the Foresters need to establish serve receive. It seems like this game is established by their side out, and whoever sides out more is most likely to win this game. There's been rallies, but that hasn't been what winning the game. We've seen kills, but it's been one-on-one-on-one. So whoever can stay up and serve receive and make sure they continue their aces and their service rallies is definitely going to win this game.
21-18 in favor of CUC. Here's Kate Foley, her serve. A low dig there by Tursky. Lake Forest not able to do anything before it touches the pin. Another point for CUC.
As we established before, with a 6'2", being a back row setter, they cannot jump above the net. So balls like that, it's harder to save.
That ball, it goes out, expertly called by the Lake Forest bench. So CUC gives up a point on the service error.
The Foresters are very good at closing out, though, so this could be a tricky situation for the Cougars.
Last 2 sets have gone to overtime, some extra volleyball. Brooke Christensen, a nice dig, sends it right back to Lake Foresters' way as this attempt just sneaks in there. Point Foresters, they're now within 2.
Just shy of shy with that dig.
But like Van said, Lake Forest very good at closing out these sets. It's the reason they're up 2-1. So the Cougars, they got to still play some good volleyball despite being up by 2 here late. And Brown sends it right back. She swats at that, says, get it out of my face. And she gives the Cougars a 3-point lead. See some fans with the Dikente Matumbo finger wag in the audience. Very true analogy so far tonight, the way Brown has been playing defensively. As Katie Heidel, her serve. It's played by the Foresters. Franz. Katie Heidel pops it up. It hits a light. The Cougars able to read it. Grace Haywood sends it to Franz, who's able to give it to her team. Now Haywood again. This is off some fingertips and down. Set point for the Cougars.
Seems like that light is barely hanging on the edge. It's been hit twice now during this game, but the Cougars nicely recovered after the hit of the ceiling.
So I would not want to be standing under that light right now. It is still shaking. Either way, we got volleyball back on the court, and Forrester's able to respond with the point. Heidel unable to do anything with a falling one-arm dig attempt. She checks out. Acacia Brown back in.
Again, another tight set. Each one closer and closer to this. It's a real nail-biter tonight.
The serve from Robinson. That one hits the net and down off the dig attempt from Marin. So service ace. And the Foresters, they're within 2. They're creepy back in this one. You see Andrew Palmer trying to get his team riled up on the bench. Christensen to Vernango to Haywood. And Lake Forest, they can't do anything about it. 2-touch called. And the Cougars are not done yet. They force a winner-take-all set 5 here at Concordia University, Chicago. An absolutely thriller of a match so far. And so we are going to take a break, as are the teams. The 2 teams will flip for the first serve. And when we come back, we got set 5 action, first to 15 here in Geisman. It's shaping up to be a good one, so don't go anywhere on the Cougar Sports Network.
Fans, thanks for tuning in to today's game. For more information about the women's volleyball program, head to CUCougars.com. We hope to see you at our next game.
Set 5 is going to get started soon, less than a minute away between the Cougars and the Foresters. The Cougars won a must-win set 4 to get here after trailing the Foresters 2-1 in the match. Van, let's just get down to it. Set 5, the last set of the night. It's the first to 15 rather than 25, and as someone who I'm sure has played in plenty of set 5s in your own career, I mean, what does it take mentally to go out there? No, you have to do it this time. Just what does it take to be able to go out there and compete?
Aggression. They're definitely got to be pumped up, like the song. They need to make sure they're in it. They need to make sure they're mentally sharp and mentally strong. Each side needs to come out and make sure their serve receive is well. That is what will really decide this game, as we talked about multiple times. Each side is very equally hitting-wise and setting-wise and defensive-wise, but the serve receive will make or break this team.
Yeah, with only 15 points in this set, there is little to no room for error. So you have to be near perfect, cannot afford costly mistakes as you would when you have 25 points to play with. So first to 15, set 5, winner take all, the most exciting set in volleyball as the Forster and Cougars are in a big battle here. Just a slugfest, and it looks like it's going to be a service ace to start it for the Cougars. Good note to start on as the CUC Cougars take an early 1-0 lead.
Exactly what will be winning this set is the serving and the serve receive. Let's see how both sides continue it during the set.
Vernango popped up by Tursky. As here go the Foresters. Haywood now to Vernango. Here comes Hunt, blocked up front, but it goes out of bounds. Point CUC, 2-0 the score.
Seems like the Foresters were falling back on their block, and Hunt caught that, using the block to her advantage.
Like I said, it's the first to 15, so little room for error. And this one is going to be an error. It goes out of bounds off the Foresters. 3-0 the score. Katie Roofer chatting to her team from the sideline. I think she's trying to get them in order. She doesn't want to burn a timeout just yet, but she might have to, considering her squad's already down by a trio of points in a pivotal game 5. Gonna make it down by 4. The Cougars come out firing their best start to a set tonight, and that's going to force Roofer to take that timeout as her team is down 4-0 to CUC in a do-or-die set 5 for both squads. So we're going to take a break here. These two teams are going to talk things over. They got to play their best volleyball of the night, and when we come back, we're going to see who can take the set, who can take the match in the 2023 CUC Women's Volleyball Home Opener. Heard some chants during the timeout, the music getting everyone pumped up as the Cougars up 4-0 on the Foresters in a winner-take-all set 5. Isabel Vernango back to serve. She's been serving since the start of the set, has not given up the ball yet. Her serve is out, and it will be the first point for the Foresters.
It seems like the Cougars are fully taking an advantage of the service side. One side is a little bit more depth than the other, which is harder for the back row players on the Forester side to get that serve receive.
4-1 the score. And now it's going to be 5-1. Grace Franz maybe getting a bit of the yip, sends that one into the net. 5-1. Haywood to serve for the team in front. So you see 10 points away from closing in on the set 5 win and the come from behind win in the match. They trailed the Foresters 2-1 at some point. There's a 50-50 at the net. Levoy tries to stuff it over. The Cougars aren't done just yet. Levoy sends it over. Foresters able to calm things down, blocked up front, and finally ends the volley in favor of Lake Forest. Great effort from both teams, especially the Cougars front line. They just cannot convert it into a point. 5-2. 2 serving 5. Tursky to do it for Lake Forest. Morin. Vernango to Hunt, blocked up front. Stapley and Geegan getting it done defensively.
Seems like she could not power through that hit. but she needs to fully use all her power to her advantage and get those blockers off their toes.
And sometimes, Van, it takes a big defensive play like that to get your team fired up. As Lake Forest looking for that spark here in Game 5. There's another great defensive play, but a whistle blown, violation on Lake Forest. Point CUC. They're now up 6-3.
As we stated multiple times, the struggle of running a 6-2 is the role of being a back row setter. You cannot jump over the net, which makes it hard for tight balls like that.
Lake Forest sends it over, catches the Cougars sleeping. I don't think CUC expected that one to come over so soon. And because of it, Lake Forest now within 2, 6-4.
But the advantage of running to a 6-2 like that is dumping. If you could dump below the net like how she did, her body did not reach over the net, which allowed for the Cougars to not be defensively ready.
Service by Bierentos. Foley to Vernango. Here comes Haywood. Now Tursky back to Bierentos. Haywood pops this one up. Plenty of time for Vernango to give it back to Haywood, but too much mustard on it as it flies out of bounds. 6-5 the score now. As ever since Cougars able to go up 4-0, it's been a 5-2 run in favor of the Foresters. But that'll end the run. Bierentos right into the net. 7-5. Cougars just under halfway to 15. Hunt, a strong serve. Geegan's right there. Bierentos. Attempt there by Stapley. Whistle blows the play dead. Point CUC.
Seemed like she carried that ball.
8-5. The score. And because one team has crossed the halfway point, they are going to switch sides now.
The Cougars need to be aware of the depth change now as they go into serve receive later on if they don't get this next side out point. But also the momentum change with the side switching. It takes a little break, so they need to be on top of their game. On the other end, the Foresters could use this to their advantage and use the slowdown of the game and set their own pace and to continue from there.
It gives everyone a mini breather without the use of a timeout. As both teams situate themselves in their new homes. Cougars on the right of your screen, Foresters on the left. Hunt serve just over the net and unable to read it is Grace Franz. That might be the depth change that you're talking about. Van, on the side the Cougars are serving from, the wall is much closer to the server, as it's basically the baseline of the basketball court and then the wall. Meanwhile, on the left side, the side Wake Forest would be serving from, there's a lot more distance to that wall, and it doesn't even matter as the Cougars able to get a block on the volley. They are up by 5 once again, 5 points away from claiming set 5. Let's look at some of the team totals now, and still about as close as it can come. Cougars leading the attacks 154-153. Lake Forest on top kills-wise 52-49. Hitting percentage, it is the Foresters 176-143. Assists 49-57. As for dig 66-62 in favor of the Foresters. Blocks 10-8 in favor of CUC. And Van, that might be the biggest note is the blocks. You know, we've seen Acacia Brown really come to life. He brings Lily Hunt back in the fold. Eve Dickin has done a really nice job. Just that frontline defense, we've seen it play great for both sides, but the Cougars seem to be a little bit more consistent with that frontline defense.
That's what they need. These teams are pretty even as they were stacked against. Most of the points in this game have been equal, one-on-one, one-on-one. And if they've gone on runs, they've gotten both sides back. So it seems that the frontline defense and the serve receive are the deciders of these games.
10-5 as Lily Hunt now gets set for the serve. Garantos tries to set up DeCalc. It doesn't matter. CUC. The Great Wall of Concordia stands tall, blocks another shot. 11-5 now.
Seems like the Foresters are getting frustrated with each other, which will result in the loss of this match if they don't pick it up.
Maybe some more jawing as they do get a point. 11-6. Cougars just 4 away. Lake Foresters need 9. Back to serve is Geegan. This one over Haywood. Marin calls for it. Foley now a little floater. Geegan's back there. Here goes Franz. A strong attack. Grace Haywood's right there. Isabel Vernango almost goes into the far side stands, and then Haywood, an errant attack, hits the net. 11-7 now the score.
Those balls are really tough, especially when you're coming back from a back row attack. It's hard to track when it's going so close and so tight to the line, but also falling back into the court too.
Marin, Vernango. Here comes Brown, a little floater. Franz able to recover from the block attempt. And as here goes DeCalc. And now Foley. Foresters trying to get some offense going, but CUC is going to send it out on their offensive attempt.
It seems like Palmer is getting riled up on that point.
Palmer trying to say that a Forester touched it. Far side official having none of it. Coach Palmer trying to stand up for his team in his first year at the helm, as his Cougars are now up by just 3 after being up by 5.
The slide, which was just done by Brown and Vernango, is one of the hardest plays to do as a middle. And during this off time between this game and next game, they definitely need to improve on that connection. But that comes from being a new athlete on the team.
Brown.
They just established it right there. I should bite my tongue, but this is a perfect time to work and get rid of those kinks.
Foley, a soft hit. It ends up hitting the ground. 12-8 the score.
Now with all these jitters and it's starting to get towards the end of the game, it's really about being how smart you play. It's not about who's the strongest, but who's the best and smartest.
Well, Kate Foley decides to go with strongest there, ends up sending it way out of bounds. So we'll reset. 12-9. This game became close all of a sudden, it feels like. Cougars were well in control of this 5th set, and now Lake Forest knocking on the door. Vernango sets up Brown. Brown having a great night. Franz, she's having a great night as well. She gets a kill there to bring her team within a pair. You gotta wonder if Coach Palmer eyeing that timeout. He's got 2 left in this 5th set, as his team's lead has shrunk all the way down to 2. You want to call that timeout preferably before a tie happens to kind of settle down the momentum. As Haywood, a strong attempt. It's going back towards the Cougars now. They're not able to get there. 12-11 the score.
Looks like Palmer might be calling that timeout right now.
And he is calling the timeout. Wants to settle things down, as Lake Forest, who were down by 5 at multiple points in this 5th set, have all of a sudden made it a 1-point game. 12-11 as we close in on the finish of tonight's match. We'll have that conclusion for you when we're back on the Cougar Sports Network in just a second. Twelve to 11 the score here in set 5. The Cougars calling the timeout just before Lake Forest is able to tie this one up, possibly. They've been down by 5 at multiple points, and all of a sudden, it's a 1-point game. And I think the nerves might be the biggest enemy of the Cougars right now. You know, you're thinking everything's going great, you're up by 5. All of a sudden, they're right at your heels. This team, I think that timeout was primarily just to settle them down, let them catch their breath, and they get a break here with the service error.
As we call it, a coach's point. Palmer used that timeout to get a point for their team, allowing the service side on the Foresters to whale that ball out.
13-11, Cougars 2 away from match victory. They trailed in the match 2-1, won a must-win set 4, and now they're 2 away. Hadel gets a piece of the net. It's still alive though. Levoy blocked right back in her face. 13-12 the score.
Seems like the Foresters know how to trail, especially because they are from the Forest, but they need to continue this lead, and the Cougars need to continue this lead to stop the bleeding that's going on right now on their side. By giving up that lead, they need to just improve their serve receive and communication.
And you think of the psychological impact of the tied game here. You know, you're up by 5, and all of a sudden, it's a tied game. It's a new game. Grace Haywood makes sure that is not about to happen, brings the Cougars to match point.
As we've seen before and time again, Haywood is not affected by those jitters. She could put the ball down, and she is a strong offensive player, despite her small stature.
Isabel Vernango now, looking to clinch the game for CUC. Geegan. Here comes Franz, blocked. Geegan able to get under it. Could this do it? The ball is still alive. The freebie is over. It's good. Marin to Vernango. Here comes Haywood. It's flipped. It's down. Cougars win the home opener. Come from behind victory. CUC pulls away with the dub.
You can hear the Cougars roar from the crowd. If Charlie T was here to witness this, he would be jumping up and down, but the heat has him in his cage.
Well, in place of Charlie, I think the fans here as well as the players will do. But CUC, they were close to defeat. They were down 2-1 in the match. They claw their way back, as Cougars do, able to take set 4 tied up, and then they win set 5, 15-12. Let's look at some of these post-game stats. In terms of kills, Grace Haywood leading the pack as she usually does. 20 kills and 13 digs, a 20-kill double-double for the Cougars' star offensive player. But Acacia Brown might be the story of the game. 10 kills, 8 blocks. So the transfer making her presence known here in Geisman Gymnasium. In terms of assists, Isabel Vernango surpasses the 40 mark once again, 44 total assists for Vernango. She also led the Cougars with 16 digs. Meanwhile, in terms of the Foresters, Grace Franz led the pack with 16 kills. Assists, it was Lily Robinson with 23, and digs, it was Grace Franz with 18.
This is not just big for the Cougar ladies themselves, but Palmer, too, leading his first home game victory, allowing for a multitude of wins for the season. Palmer now has established his footing as the women's volleyball coach and established his mark here as a Cougar.
Well, speaking of Palmer, we're going to have Coach Andrew Palmer up here in the booth for a post-game interview, so more on that in a second. But Van, this will be your time to sign off. I think everyone's been enjoying your presence here tonight, and we look forward to having you on in the future games, but we're not done just yet, so stick around. But before Coach Palmer comes up here, we do want to say a quick thanks to everybody making this broadcast possible as part of the Cougar Sports Network and the Athletic Communications Department here at CUC. So making tonight possible on the scoreboard was Amaya Martin, the libero Wyatt McLaughlin, spotter Emily Balaban, camera was Alina, producing was Sydney Lloyd and Janie Turnez. Scorebook helped out by Danielle Burke, and then photos Sabum Miller. And of course, I was Peter Borkowski, Van Gato, my partner for the night. But we're going to let Van step aside. Coach Andrew Palmer interview coming up in just a second. Don't go anywhere on the Cougar Sports Network. We're good here. Welcome back to the Cougar Sports Network. Peter Borkowski here, joined by Coach Andrew Palmer of the CUC women's volleyball team. And Coach, it was a heck of a win for your team. A very gritty 5-set win against the Lake Foresters. And let's start there. The grittiness of this team. You guys were down at multiple points. You had 2 sets go to extra volleyball. I mean, I'm sure as coach, you have to be ecstatic that your team hung in there and kept fighting through everything, especially the heat in this gym, because it is excruciatingly hot in here.
It is not cool, and I don't know who needs to turn the AC on, but I'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, it's just it's one of those things that we've talked a lot about, is that mentality of it doesn't matter if we're ahead by a lot or we're down by a little. We have to keep fighting and we have to keep digging. We're going to have to earn our points every step of the way. And so, there's moments like that where we can identify, like, hey, we're down 3. This is that moment that we've talked about. Let's see what we got. And so I really like that grittiness and just that fight and that heart. And that's something that's hard to coach. You just have it or you don't.
And one of those players who really stood out was Acacia Brown. 10 kills and 8 blocks. She was doing that all over the court. She's a transfer to CUC this year, and she was just kind of a spark plug. She had huge kills where she would just throw it down on the opposition, and having her as a player, I mean, like I said, just that energizing level of her. Is that something that you've noticed in practice before today? Again, your 4 games before tonight. I mean, again, just her spark plug mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a position that doesn't get enough credit is the middle. They usually get blamed for everything. And so, something we identified was trying to use our middle a little bit more. And, she just has that that energy and that heart, and just is like, all right, let's go, and whatever I have to do, and if I have to make any adjustments, she's really coachable, and she kind of infects the whole team with that energy level. And when she makes one play, she turns around, and that energy level just goes way up on the squad. So
Definitely.
It's great to have.
And then last thing here, but it's your first game here in Geisman, so I have to get your opinion on just the energy levels of this place. Because, Heat excluded. The crowd was here. Every fan was here. It was Jersey night, so I'm sure the energy level, that had to be something special for you to experience your first time playing here at CUC.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have fans that are supportive and coming out and being rowdy. And when you're at home, like that's what it should feel like. The other team should not feel comfortable when they're in our gym. And so the energy level was great throughout. Even when we were down by a couple points, everybody was just cheering and screaming and having a good time. And it was really special to kind of have a home win as the first one and get that out of the way. But there's a lot more to come.
Definitely. Well, Coach Palmer, congrats on your first win here at CUC. One more time, the Cougars, they take down the Foresters of Lake Forest College 3-2. They'll have about a week off, and they'll be back here in Geisman next Wednesday to host Wisconsin Lutheran College. You can find updates for that game as well as everything related to CUC women's volleyball on our website, cucougars.com. But until next time, this is Peter Borkowski signing off of the Cougar Sports Network, and wanting to say, as always, go Cougars.